We're recording.
I don't see any new people, Mike.
New people coming in. We're up to 24.
Oh, I guess it's because for some reason. Oops. Oh no, what happened?
I don't see Misty's screen anymore though.
Yeah, maybe she stopped sharing.
There it is.
Change again.
That's good. So now she's got the second screen, which is probably a good thing. $7:01.
I'm trying to move that little window on my side. Hi everyone. This is Cynthia. We're starting. We're recording. We record all of our videos and put them in our YouTube channel, which I'll tell you more about. Oops. Okay.
Was the Spanish slide your first slide?
No, it's not. I'm trying to get to the first slide. I'm not able to do that right now.
Okay, there's a reason why there's a Spanish slide. She'll tell you all about it.
I'm going to try again. Okay, who knows what happened there. Hi everyone again, this is Cynthia, and we've got a couple other people on the call, and I'll introduce them in a moment. One thing you might do as we're starting is put into the chat where you're from and perhaps your favorite plant. So this is our second hybrid English-Spanish webinar. We're going to make a big effort in the next year or so to reach out to the Latino community, and and maybe some other communities too. This is our 24th. This is our 24th event, and this is the way the translation works. But if you don't want the Spanish translation, you don't need to pay any attention to this. So it's a real-time translation of English into Spanish captions. So you have to go to this. You go to the CC button in a black bar, and you choose translate, and then you choose which language. You can choose any language. They've got about 50. So you set your speech to English, and you translate to Spanish or Polish or whatever. All the speaking will be in English. So you don't have to do anything if you only want English. If you want to look at a Misty slide, which is these instructions in Spanish, you can toggle between those. Normally we translate the speaker slides. We didn't do this because you'll see with KK's presentation, it's all pictures and talk. So I'll go over this quickly one more time. And if you have any questions, English, Spanish, you put it in the chat. Now I'm going to go to the next slide, and Misty, who's our Spanish coordinator, he will say this in Spanish. Misty? Misty?
I don't think she's here. I think she dropped out.
Hola, bueno.
Oh, there you are.
Tenemos un programa que da la traducción en tiempo real. El orador habla inglés, pero si quiere subtítulos en español, tenemos instrucciones en español en el segundo página.
Are you done? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. She's going to keep this slide up on her screen. the one in Spanish. So if you Spanish speakers didn't catch all that, you'll still see it. All right, let's get going. So this is our 24th event. Our speaker is the infamous Krzysztof Kozminski, and he's actually a member of the Santa Clara Valley chapter. He's got an amazing garden in San Jose, which he's going to tell you about. And this is his specialty, NO Irrigation. So yeah, we do this webinar series every month, second Monday of the month, except for December's. So I'm going to kind of give a few things about this, and Mike is going to talk about our chapter, and then the translation will be done by Misty if you have questions in the chat. We've had a lot of webinars. Just list them all here, and especially if you read this. But if you go to our YouTube channel, you can watch them. I do want to mention here that this, our second webinar was Chris again. We did part 1. He didn't quite finish, so now it's part 2. Okay. We got a couple upcoming, and we have a lot of openings. Next February will be the status of insects with a case study of California's Central Valley. And then on April 14th, we're going to talk about what Kathy Kramer has done over at Bringing Back the Natives and creating a whole community. They call them native plant resource teams. Then you can see we have a lot of openings. So if you want to be a speaker, just to let me know. My email is at the bottom of most of these slides. And then in September, Misty, our very own Misty, is going to give a talk about edible native plants, and she's going to actually do this in Spanish. So you can still come, and you get the translation real time to English. We really want to hold 2 webinars this year. That's 2025 in Spanish. We already have one. We'd love to have another one. So if, we're particularly interested in people that can make a presentation in Spanish. Here's our channel. We have 246 subscribers, and my goal isn't millions of subscribers. It's just to get the information out there so that people like us can find it. Again, just repeating that is the free webinar series. They're always recorded second Monday of the month, no webinars in December. Send me an email if you want to be a speaker, or you know someone that might be a speaker. Cynthia.ca nativeplants@gmail.com. I got these slides again. I'm not going to go through them, but just reminding you that you can, if you go to the CC, you can choose to have captions in many languages, including Spanish. You can even do English to English, right? If you feel that might help you. Okay, so I'm going to stop now, and Mike's going to tell you about CNPS and about our chapter.
Okay, let me quickly take the screen. Do you see my screen? Cynthia?
Well, participant needs to select your screen. It doesn't switch automatically.
What do I need? I'm sorry.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Oh, all right.
Let me stop sharing. Okay, we see you.
All right. So now I need to share again. Yeah. How about now?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Good deal.
Yeah. It's good.
I'll explain what happened there in just a second. But first, I want to introduce our chapter, the North San Joaquin Valley chapter of the California Native Plant Society. California Native Plant Society is a statewide organization, and you can join it for a regular individual membership of $50 to receive the Flora and Artemisia magazine, get benefits such as discounts to certain nurseries, sales and things like that, and the ability to join 2 different chapters of CNPS. If you'd like to join the North San Joaquin Valley chapter and one other, such as Santa Clara Valley chapter, the Sacramento chapter, or others, it will be an option when you go to the link on the slide. We hope that you join us here in the North San Joaquin Valley chapter. and whichever other chapter you feel a kinship with. I said the membership was $50, but there is an option to choose other price options, and higher membership levels are available for those who are able to help the organization more financially. It's a great cause. The regular membership link is right there, cnps.org/membership. Remember this link. This is the link to join up. And I should point out that long bar at the bottom labeled other is for those who want to choose another amount. And notice that the bottom of the barrel is actually $25. Not everyone can afford $50, but we have removed membership level titles, and that includes the low income level. If you want to join for $25 with the magazines and all, but you can't afford the $50 membership, we still want you to have the opportunity to join us. Just fill in that amount and with the minimum of $25, and you are in. And we have a newsletter for our chapter that we send out several times a year. It's called the Oak Branch. We have articles about native plants, field trips that we're holding, virtual events and such. And let's see, I wanted to talk about the salmon nature walk that we are doing. This is our last field trip of the year. We do field trips pretty much every month, but we won't be having any in December. December, we kind of go dark. We kind of allow all of our people to take a break from it and have a good Christmas without having to worry about doing webinars or things like that. So join us at the salmon nature walk at Knight's Ferry on Saturday, November 16th, 10 a.m. Join us for a captivating nature walk at Knight's Ferry, where we'll explore the remarkable life cycle of salmon and the vital role they play in supporting local wildlife. This guided walk will take you along the scenic trails, offer a unique opportunity to learn about these incredible fish as they make their journey upstream. As we walk, you'll discover how salmon contribute to the health of the entire ecosystem, providing nourishment for a diverse array of animals from birds to mammals. This event is suitable for all ages and is a wonderful way to connect with nature and gain a deeper understanding of the intricate web of life that thrives in our local rivers. Don't miss out on this educational and engaging experience. Bring your family and friends and join us in celebrating the wonders of the natural world. We look forward to seeing you there. So I should point out that we intend to do everything by email. We recognize that there are some people who actually prefer U.S. mail for their all of their correspondence, and for those who are inconvenienced, we do apologize, but we don't yet have the financial or volunteer base to put the newsletter out that way. CNPS has asked all chapters to find ways of reducing carbon, and saving all that paper is one of our contributions. If this is a true problem, let us know. So far, no one has complained. And if you are on our list, you should have received our newsletter. But if you somehow got missed, let me know by emailing me at the email that I put in chat, cnps.nsj.membership@gmail.com. We want our newsletter to get out to everyone. That's our mission, to promote native plants around our region, and our best way of doing that is to keep native plants on everyone's mind through events and presentations and gardening. So we want to keep those of you who haven't joined the statewide organization in the loop, so that perhaps you can join us for an event or two and to remind you that we are all here. And why care about native plants? Well, we are finding out more and more each day about the true need to restore our environment as much as we can. The man who's been trying to explain the need for native plants with the most eloquence is Doug Ptolemy, a professor from Delaware. He's written several books on the subject, all of which circle around the theme that we have damaged the environment dramatically, but that there is hope in native plants. And this is 95% of all birds feed insects to their young. Caterpillars are an important component of that diet, and caterpillars cannot live on non-native plants with few exceptions. Native plants are critical to the ecosystem. In a backyard with no native plants, and that is a devastatingly high percentage of them, are ecological dead zones. Planting native plants in our yards helps moths, butterflies, native bees, and other pollinators, and therefore birds, and the web goes on and on. Our cities need not be devoid of butterflies, moths, and native bees. For more information about this, you can watch a 1-hour video that explains it all. This was a talk sponsored by our local Audubon chapters. The link is in the chat. And Doug Ptolemy is actually speaking in person in California next Sunday at Santa Clara University. He's also speaking on Saturday at Oakland, but that's all sold out. Use the link that you see here, and I did put that in chat as well. If you are interested at all in attending his in-person, he's such a dynamic speaker. I really, really recommend it. And then one thing I'd like you to do, actually now I don't see it. If at some point, I know what the problem is. Nobody's sharing screens at all right now. If you look up along the top of your window, you see a whole line of people and names and things like that. Up above that is where when we start sharing the screen, it says screen. Remember when I started sharing my screen, but nobody saw it? It was because now in Zoom, you can have multiple people sharing screens. And I shared a screen at the same time Cynthia was sharing screens. It used to be that I would steal the screen sharing. Can't do that anymore. Now I have to wait for her to shut down her screen. But at some point, if you start seeing Spanish, then you will know that you're on the wrong screen. If you go up above, actually, let me just go ahead and share one more time just to illustrate what I'm talking about. So if you look up above there now, it should say Mike Azevedo's screen. I'm hoping it does. And that's above the window. That's above all those pictures and the names. If you start seeing Spanish, it's because you're on the wrong window, and you could just go up and click on the one that says CNPS screen when Cynthia starts sharing again. Or it's gonna maybe Keith's screen. It's Krzysztof Kozminski's screen. So you want to see his. If you're on Misty's, she's sharing Spanish. So that's the deal. I just want to make sure, because we had some people putting in and saying, "Wait, I'm seeing Spanish," and that's what the problem is. All right. If you have any questions, please put them in chat, and we will bring them all up at the end. And I'm going to let Chris or Cynthia take over.
Yeah, I just got one slide here to introduce our speaker. He's got this incredible garden, which he's going to tell you about. I've known Chris for a long time because I was a member of, and still am a member of the Santa Clara Valley CNPS. He's also been Volunteer of the Year because he runs the wonderful, wonderful website for the Growing Native Garden Tour. We changed the name, so Growing Native Garden Tour, gnt.org. And if you go there, well, Chris will tell you how you can actually go and look at his page about his garden, because he's been on the tour. So now I'm going to pass it to Chris. Want to take the screen?
Okay, let me share my thing then. Share screen number. This one, share. Okay, I think I'm sharing, but I need to start playing actually something. All right, so now I believe that you should be able to see my backyard as it looked 22 years ago.
Yes.
Which is basically a whole expanse of non-native annual grasses. Well, since then it's changed a little bit. One thing that I need to mention ahead of the time before I start is that, in addition to my own experiences, lots of the information that I will be presenting is based on what I read in Calscape, consulted with Jepson, Calflora, and so on. So anyway, this was my backyard in 2002. 13 years later, it changed a little bit. You can see what the status in 2015 in April. This is last year in August, and this is 2 days ago. So basically, it's all filled out and looks much better than it used to. I have plenty of critters and birds and unfortunately rabbits that are all over the place. All right, the next slide is comparison of the conditions between what I have here in San Jose versus what you have in your chapter area. I can only speak from the experience on my garden, but the climate information is fairly similar. In evergreens, Calscape says 17 inches of rain. It's really overstated. It's really more like 15 inches a year. So it's not too different from the 13 inches that you have on the average in the Central Valley. Although in the last 2 years, I had more than normal. The rainfall was about 22 and 20 inches. And this caused more plants dying than in the dry years. The slope that you have seen has exposure to south-southeast. It was compacted clay soil with no topsoil. There were traces of serpentine. In winter, there are strong uphill winds reaching maybe 15 miles an hour. In winter also, the bottom of the hill can get fairly wet because all the water from the slope drains down there. So the slope has fairly fast drainage. And the entire previous presentation was about plants that always look good, and we covered the ones that are here shown in the pale blue, starting from coyote brush all the way to Ceanothus, and we ran out of time when I was just about to start talking about manzanitas. So this is my list of plants that always look good, and it's not really complete. You'll see that there will be more than not just manzanitas. One correction, I think that all of the oaks look good all the time. I was a little bit probably underappreciative of oaks when I wrote most in the first installment. Now, in my first presentation, I also made a couple of things that require correction because I made a mistake. So the blooper correction is coming here now. I presented this slide about island oak, and the problem here is that the leaves are indeed from the island oak, but the tree itself is not. The problem happened because I had a huge brush pile in front of the oak, and I couldn't get to the label that would remind me what it was. You can see it, part of this brush pile at the bottom of the slide of the picture on the right. Those are just dead branches from that pile. So let's never mind the previous slide. This is what the island oak really should have been shown as. So the leaves are still the same, similar. I just changed the picture to a little newer one to show them in greater detail. They are about 4 inches long. The oak itself is evergreen, occurs naturally only on channel islands. It's a little bit frost tender, moderately fast growing. And the specimen that I have in my backyard is shown on the right. I got it from Las Pilitas nursery, I would say 2006 or so. The oak that I was showing before turns out to be interior live oak. And during the previous meeting, I mentioned that I don't grow it. Well, not true. Actually, I found that I do grow it. And that's what it looked like. And there's also a picture of some leaves and acorns from the same thing. Yeah, this is another view of the same oak, maybe a little bit better. It doesn't have the brush pile blocking the view. Okay, a little bit of status updates about the plants that looked good last time, but not so much now. I was presenting this leather oak. This was my bonsai leather oak that grew about 16 inches in 16 years. Turns out that rabbits like eating it, so it got completely defoliated this year and it's barely surviving. But I have found another specimen of leather oak, also about the same age. This time it's about 18 years old. But it managed to grow to 3 or 4 feet tall and about 6 to 8 wide. And this is a species that like serpentine soils. The acorns shown are barely started at maturity. They would be about 1/2 to 1 inch long. And last update is about Eriogonum fasciculatum, the California buckwheat. This is one of the volunteers that is really different from all the others in that first, it's fairly low growing. Second, it started blooming in the end of summer. I don't know whether it's going to keep this habit or is it just because it's fairly young. This is a volunteer that's maybe 2 or 3 years old. And it's September. Most of the buckwheats are going to be completely brown. This one just full bright white, and it's perfectly looked like it just started. Right now, in the last weekend, it still has more white than brown. So I just wanted to mention that this is a kind of interesting thing about what you can expect when you have a lot of plants volunteering where they like. Okay, now let's go to the real start of plants that always look good, and we start with manzanitas. So there I have 7 species and cultivars that I like a lot. And the first group, the first 7 did well for me with no water after they got established. Sorry. And the ones, the 3 other ones are promising, but still uncertain whether they will be good for long-term survival. Okay, the first one that I wanted to show is Louis Edmund's cultivar of Arctostaphylos bakeri. This is from Sonoma County. It slowly grows about 8 feet tall in about 18 years. According to Calscape, is rather intolerant of summer water, but on the other hand, Calscape also says that it's known to be garden tolerant, so that includes watering. I'm not sure exactly what to make out of it, but I don't water it, and it's and it's perfectly happy. Some snapshot of the beautiful bark. So this specimen is. Or this variety is, I think it's suitable for fairly small gardens, so it will be perfect focal point. And a couple of days ago, I took a picture of the current state. It's starting to get ready to bloom. We'll see. It should be blooming maybe in about another month or 2. The second species and cultivars that I really like is Arctostaphylos densiflora, which is Vinehill manzanita. In the wild, this thing is extremely rare, and it's only known from a small population in Sonoma County, apparently only about 20 to 30 individual plants, and that's it. So it's super rare, but it has several cultivars available in the trade, and you can find it in nurseries very easily. And here, this photo shows 2 different cultivars. One is Harmony, this is the one in front, and there is Howard McMean in the back. Harmony is a little bit lower growing, and Howard McMean is taller. You can see a little bit of the difference here. They are both the same age. I think about 15 years old at the time the picture was taken. And they bloom fairly late. Once they bloom, they are attractive to everything. The hummingbirds and bees and wasps and of course butterflies as well. In September, they look perfectly fine. Those are the same 2 specimens. The smaller one is Harmony, the taller one is Howard McMean. And there's another picture of another specimen of Howard McMean. With a little bit of back sun, the sun is shining from the back. It looks like glowing. It's a very, very pretty plant if situated that way. The next species that I also like a lot is big berry manzanita, Arctostaphylos glauca. Not in nature, it occurs from San Francisco Bay all the way south in California. It's including in Modesto and Turlock areas, so it should be locally native to where you are. It's moderate growth rates. It's a little bit slow, but if you give it time, it will grow 20 feet tall or more. The leaves are grayish. The berries are really big. the berries are probably not maybe a full inch, but almost an inch in diameter. I've seen some in the wild that were probably almost an inch wide in diameter. In September, looks perfectly good. This particular one that is photographed here, it's a variety called Ramona. That's a cultivar that I got also from Las Pilitas nursery. Next one is that I like is Arctostaphylos Ian Bush. This is a hybrid. It's supposed to be hybrid of Densiflora and Arctostaphylos pungens. It grows taller and more upright and less sprawling than Howard McMinn. It also blooms earlier. It grows fine in sun or parched shade, and the structure of it has the usual brown bark of manzanitas. The branches in the interior die back, so they should be really pruned. I haven't maintained this one. I'll need to spend one day, well, an hour someday and clean it up so it will be more presentable if you look under the leaves, under the canopy. All right, next one is Bishop Manzanita, Arctostaphylos obispoensis. This is fairly rare in the wild, grows in coastal area from Big Sur to Los Padres National Forest. It's also known as serpentine manzanita. Grows fairly slowly to about 12 to 13 feet tall and blooms in winter, in December and January, I think is this picture taken, if I remember correctly. And the usual beautiful brown bark. Not much exfoliation on this one, but yeah, at least not at the time I took this one. All right, next one, point leaf manzanita, Arctostaphylos pungens. This one is fairly widespread. It occurs in coastal ranges from San Francisco Bay all the way south. It's also known as a Mexican manzanita. It grows in Mexico as well. It has a very upright habit, grows up to 12 feet tall. It's not very fast. Most of manzanitas are rather slow. Interesting thing about it is that it's supposed to be that the berries were supposedly harvested and made into jam. I'm not sure about it. I looked at the berries and they didn't seem very edible to me. It needs fire to germinate. I'll be germinating a couple thousand of them this winter, and we'll see how many I'll manage to get. Sorry, again, I'm having some cough. Okay, the closer look at some the point leaf manzanita, the detail of the bark and leaves. All right, next species, rainbow manzanita, Arctostaphylos rainbowensis. This one is fairly young, but since it was completely neglected and survived without problems, I included it in the group that I consider as being reliable. This one is a very rare one, and it's known from northern San Diego and southern Riverside counties, so it's way south. It actually, for quite a long time, it was considered to be either a hybrid or a variant of some other species, but it was determined after doing the genome analysis, it was determined that it is a distinct species, and it's considered a new species only since 1994. It's supposed to grow up to maybe 13 feet tall and wide. This one is about 5 years old, and I'm not sure when it's going to reach 13 feet tall. It's fairly slow. The second photo is from this year. So at this point it's 6 years old, and it's finally getting ready to bloom. You can see the flowers are going to show up in those racemes. Okay, so this is the end of good-looking Arctostaphylos. There were 3 other species that I mentioned, but as I said, I'm not quite sure that they are still worth recommending yet. So I'm going to, I didn't make any pictures of them. I'm not going to show them. Then we go to the other plants that also look good all the time. The first one that I wanted to mention is Berberis neviniae, which is Nevin's barberry. It's from Southern California. It's also endangered. In the wild, that are only about 500 individual plants left, but it's very widely cultivated. It's very easy to find out. It's a good barrier plant with extremely spiky leaves, and those leaves will go through leather gloves. Trying to do any work underneath, when the leaves drop now and then, the old leaves drop, they retain the spikes, and the spikes stay very sharp. So we need really solid gloves to do anything around this plant. So it's a very good barrier plant. It's fairly slow growing for me without any watering. All of mine are less than 5 feet tall after 10 years or so. And it's supposed to grow to 7 feet tall. It's very tolerant of heat and drought, but Calfrara says that it's also going to take regular water. It has beautiful berries. This is the picture of the same specimen after it is done blooming. The flowers, by the way, are yellow. The berries are edible by birds. I tasted, and they are not that great tasting. And besides, humans shouldn't be really trying to eat those berries, because it contains a compound called berberine, which has various medical applications. But since the content of berberine in those berries is variable, it's very easy to overdose, which is a not good thing. It can create heart issues, and so not recommended for eating. Next plant is a hybrid. This is only 50% native. It's Chirantophragmontia lenzii. It's an intergeneric hybrid between Fremotodendron californicum, which is our native, so that's where 50% comes from, and the other plant is Chirantodendron pentadactylon, which is from Mexico. It's very fast growing to about 20 feet. This plant that is shown here on the right is probably 5 years old now, maybe 6. And I have planted another one in the spring this year. It was about 3 feet tall when I planted it. It's already about 6, and it was watered maybe twice during entire summer, because as you know, first year everything needs to be watered. It's not that you can just stick it in the ground and forget it. But after this year, it's not going to get any more water, and we'll see how it goes. The next plant that always looks good and is also very drought tolerant is Frangula californica, which is coffee berry. It is wildly spread all over California, occurs naturally in many places, including some occurrences in the Central Valley, so it's not completely foreign to your area. It's dense, evergreen, tolerates full sun, but all of mine that I grow in partial shade. I had one in full sun and it didn't fare very well, but the ones in partial shade are fine. And it has berries that are eaten by birds. And the birds, of course, spread them around. And most of my volunteers that got propagated by birds. Well, this is the one of them, but most of them volunteers grow in partial or full shade. This is another volunteer that is fairly young yet. All right, next plant, gray pine, Pinus sabiniana. This is also known as foothill pine, and it's native to foothills surrounding the Central Valley, both on the side of the ranges close to the Pacific, which includes, it's also in Silicon Valley. It's also in the foothills of the Sierras, so it's fairly close to Central Valley. And the growth rate is very dependent on the watering. As I said, I don't water mine at all. So this is the plant on the right is the result of growing it for about 10 to maybe 12 years. And Yeah, but if it's watered and eventually at maturity it can reach about 80 feet tall. Very drought tolerant plant, and I like it a lot. Another one that is completely out of our area, it belongs naturally only on Catalina Islands. It's Ribes viburnifolium. It's evergreen. It has nicely scented leaves, especially after the rain. So it can be grown for fragrance. Somewhere you can touch it and smell. It's very easy to propagate. Basically, all you need to do is to cut a branch off, stick it in the ground, stamp it, water it, and forget it, and it will sprout root on its own. Doesn't require any rooting hormone. Very easy. In September, it still looks pretty good. This one gets partial sun. It gets sun after maybe 3 p.m. Even though normally this is plant that is for planting in the shade, for example, under oaks. If it gets some sun, it's not going to burn it too much. It always looks good. Okay, grasses. Grass that I like that always looks good is deer grass. It goes partially dormant in summer, but I still like the way it looks. Its normal origin is in coastal area from Monterey down to San Diego, also in the Sierra foothills, also in portions of Central Valley, including the area of Modesto and Turlock. With some summer water, it's going to look better, but it doesn't look bad if you don't water it either. It has those very long, upright flower stalks. If you don't water it, then a lot of the growth is going to go dormant. It can be just sheared to maybe 6 inches above the ground, and that it will resprout and look really nice in the winter and in spring. Okay, next plant that I also I like all of them, so I probably shouldn't be even repeating that I like them. So this is chamise, Adenostoma fasciculatum. It occurs from Reading all the way south, but I haven't seen it on Calflora. It doesn't show that it's anywhere in Central Valley, so it's a little bit exotic there. It's slowly growing for me to about 12 feet tall and 8 feet wide. This one is, I would say, 6 feet wide and 6 feet tall at this point. The problem with this one that is a concern, it's very flammable. It catches fire really easy, so it may not be the best choice for gardens that are close to the open areas that are susceptible to occasional fires that we have. There is a variety that grows much lower, Adenostoma fasciculatum, variety prostratum. Both are available in the nurseries now and then. It's September. It looks perfectly fine. Without any water, the flowers, as they tend to do, turn brown. All right, so this is the end of the good-looking plants that are, of plants that always looks good, because all of the plants look good at some time of the year. So now for something different, this is now the section with plants that require tolerance for dormant looks. So maybe they shouldn't be planted right up front, or if you plant them in the front yard, maybe you should water them. But if you tolerate the dry look when they go dormant for summer, they are perfectly fine in the backyard. They are good plants for wildlife. The birds will eat the seeds. The hummingbirds come to them. So that's what we see here are 3 dormant salvias in November. There are 3 different varieties in here that will be mentioned later. So this is the extreme case of what I consider the plants that really differ in their appeal from good looking to kind of but before getting to those, let's first go with some that are not look good for more than just half a year. And the first of those is big leaf maple. This is something that grows along the entire Pacific coast and also in Sierra foothills. There are few observations in Central Valley, but it's not very common there. It really prefers lots of moisture where it grows very fast, up to 90 or more feet. It's really a riparian species, but quite surprisingly, it does okay with no water after initial struggle. This one here that I'm showing here is really in the scale of big leaf maples. It's really more of a bonsai type. This one is 26-year-old. If it was planted in the correct location, it would be probably 80 feet tall. But well, what can I say? I didn't water it, and it stunted the growth. In early years, the leaves on this maple would turn brown in July, and they didn't really have any nice color. And then the things started getting better with every year, because every winter the rains would fall and it would send the roots a little bit lower and lower. And after a couple of years, it started to behave as properly as expected of a big leaf maple, which is turning bright yellow in the fall. This photo here was taken in September 2020, so this is 4 years ago. And it's worth noting that it was already gone yellow in September. After 4 more years, and especially with the recent 2 more years, this is what it looked this year. This is the picture taken last weekend. So it's still got plenty of green. It's barely starting to turn yellow. And when the new leaves in flower emerge, this is really something beautiful to look at. I'm just going to show those the pictures without comment. Just it can close up. It's really enjoyable. Okay. All right. Now the plants that require more tolerance for dormant looks. First one is California sagebrush, Artemisia californica. And this one is native to coastal area west of Highway 5, from Santa Rosa all the way south. And there are some observations of this in the wild in Central Valley, but not many. It's fast growing. According to Calscape, it can grow to 8 feet tall and 4 feet wide, but I think those numbers were swapped by mistake, because all of the ones that I have seen are definitely wider than they are tall. It has pleasant fragrance, but some people are allergic to it. So I liked to smell it, but I cannot really handle pruning it. I get really allergic from when I try to prune this plant and shred the remains. It's overwhelming. In September, it looks fairly dormant. It goes brown, but all of this brown is going to turn green, or green, or did I say green? Yeah, green. I'm starting to forget what some plants look like. After the rains, everything is going to look back green and inviting. The next plant is big saltbush. This one is native to various areas in California, from Sacramento all the way south, portions of Central Valley as well, but it has been observed near Modesto or Turlock. It's fairly fast growing, very easy to propagate with just a little bit of rooting hormone. It can grow to 10 feet tall and wide, but without water, mine didn't grow taller than 5 feet. This one requires maintenance, since sometimes branches die back, and you can see a lot of dead branches at the bottom of this photo, but it can be cut severely back and it will regrow. When it's happy, it has cream flowers. Oh, by the way, leaves are supposedly edible, but I don't really like the taste. They are bitter. And also one of the characteristics of salt bush is that it can extract salts from the ground, which probably is not a good thing to be eating, to eat. All right. Next one that I have, so next one is something that is absolutely stunning when it blooms. It's a salt plant, Chlorogallum pomeridianum. It's a member of the agave family. It's not a lily or anything like that, even though it looks a little bit, maybe resembles lilies with small flowers. It also grows in the area of San Joaquin chapter. It's also all around Central Valley and south to San Diego. The flower stalks can reach 5 to 6 feet in height. I had a couple of them. They open in late afternoon and evening, and it seeds prolifically. This is what you see here. All of this is progeny of one plant that I planted 12 years ago or so, and now I have plenty of them. This picture was taken in the unusual year when Clarkia, unguiculata, elegant Clarkia that you see in the back, and bloom and soap plant, the blooming periods overlapped. Normally, Clarkia is all done for me blooming before soap plant even starts to think about blooming. It's the flowers open in late afternoon and evening and are pollinated, are frequented by bumblebees. It requires absolutely no summer irrigation, but it requires maintenance to remove dormant leaves and flower stalk that are not particularly attractive. So when I cut flower stalks, I drop them somewhere in the backyard, and then they get more soap plants. Next one, recommended plant for no watering is Dendromecon rigida, which is bush poppy. I forgot to add the common name. It occurs mostly on the western side of coastal mountain ranges and in Sierra foothills. So it's Central Valley is kind of in the middle of its range, but it doesn't occur naturally there. Occasionally it volunteers. It doesn't volunteer too much, but what you see here is two plants. There's a parent plant slightly taller in the back, and there's a smaller one in front. And on the flower is really pretty. Before the flower covered the part of the picture, on the right-hand side you could see Salvia bisblis. And this is the next plant that I wanted to mention as one of the favorites. It's hybrid of Salvia leucophylla and Salvia sonomensis, or maybe clevelandii. It's not clear. I think it's sonomensis because of its growth habit. It is low growing, maybe up to 2 feet tall. It spreads aggressively and roots on the way, so the single plant can cover 20 feet across. And what you see here was a single plant 20 years ago. It doesn't like summer water near the ground, but will tolerate it at the drip line. And here it grows in the place where I have apricot trees. And since I water apricot trees, this part of the salvia stays green and nice most of the year. According to Calscape, the salvia spreads to a maximum of 2 feet high and 5 feet wide, and this width is a major understatement. It's nowhere close to 5 feet. It's 5 feet in the first year. When it blooms, the flowers are bluish purple. They are held above foliage, and as all salvias, it has beautiful scent. In September, well, it doesn't look particularly appealing, but I tolerate it. Okay, next salvia, Salvia brandigii. This one originates on Santa Rosa Island and is found in Baja California. So it's if you look at the origin, it's also nature. The nature is drought tolerant in there. It's fairly fast growing to about 5-6 feet tall, maybe 7-8 wide. Without water, it will go dormant, but survives without any problems. Even when it's dormant, like this one here, there is still some greenery left on it. So this is the way it looks in September. Next sage, Salvia dorii, desert sage. This is also known as a purple sage, and apparently this is the one of the riders of the purple sage fame. It's fairly fast growing, but not very big. It's about 3-4 feet tall and wide. And as all salvias, summer and fall, it goes dormant, doesn't look that great, but it really looks much better when it comes out of dormancy. It's beautiful and smells nice. That's another purple sage. This one is native to southern coast, down from San Luis Obispo all the way south. Very popular in the nurseries. You can find a lot of varieties of Salvia leucophylla. This one is the original species. It's not a specimen, not a cultivar rather. In September, it looks a little bit dormant, but if you look closely, the leaves are turned completely gray and they are really tiny. Those are just leaves that are going to grow when the rains come. The most drought-tolerant salvia supposedly is Salvia munzii, Munz's sage. This is also from South California down to Mexico. It's super drought tolerant. It looks quite dead in summer, but it grows about 4 feet tall and 5-6 wide. But after the decent rain, 10 days after decent rain, it's going to turn completely green. All those brown leaves, those are still alive. They are just preserving themselves or holding tight until they have water. The flowers are lavender, quite dark, and the smell of the leaves is various people. Some people like it, some people don't. So you need to check the smell of the leaves before you buy it and before you plant it to see whether it's going to be one of those that you like. This is the picture of some of the flowers. Okay, we are almost done with salvias. The next one is Salvia sonomensis, the creeping sage. This is widespread in coastal foothills and in Sierra foothills. As a species, it's much slower to spread than beesblies. The straight species of Salvia sonomensis, I have it, but it grows rather sparsely. It's very slow. I didn't really want to bother showing it because it's not something that I would recommend. It doesn't look too great for me. But there are many cultivars of creeping sage that look great, like this one. This is Mrs. Bird cultivar. It's best in partial shade. That's where I grow it. And without water in the end of summer, in September, October, it's going to look not particularly appealing, but again, like all salvias, it's going to recover. An unusual variety of Salvia sonomensis is this Farmer Bauer cultivar. This one has cream flowers, that is very different from all the other sonomensis varieties. I think that this is the only one that flowers have no blue in them at all. This is a close-up of what they look like. And again, just for for full information, this is what it looks when it goes dormant. There are some other salvias that I grow. There's Salvia aromas, there's Salvia starlight, which is actually quite beautiful. I should have taken pictures, but I didn't want to overwhelm the presentation. And of all of them, it's basically the same story. They look great when they are not dormant, and they look kind of ugly when they go dormant for summer. Maybe exception to this one would be Salvia spatacea, which really wants a little bit of moisture, and it would be not good to withhold all the water from it. It's this one has beautiful smell, and it's worth watering a little bit to keep it green all year. Also, interesting thing is that the leaves of Salvia spatacea can be fried and eaten. Actually, in our last potluck in Santa Clara Valley chapter of CNPS, I had a chance to eat some fried Salvia spatacea leaves, and they were okay. All right, one grass that I really like that has this characteristic that it looks great and then kind of turns not so great is Melica torreyana. It grows in coastal areas in foothills, and inland it needs really a little bit of shade. It can be watered, in which case it will stay green, but without water it goes dormant in summer. And it spreads by seed. Everything that I'm showing here is offspring of one plant that I planted maybe 15 years ago. Now I find it in many places around the garden. It pops up here and there. I'm not even sure what critter is spreading them because I haven't propagated it on purpose, but something must be eating it and carrying it around. I see it showing up in places 50 feet away. Ferns. This is another one that has the same characteristics as everything in this section. It looks fantastic when it perks up in the beginning of the winter. So this is what it will look after the rains in December and all the way until the end of spring. That's Polypodium californicum. It's mostly naturally grows in coastal areas. There's some in Sierra foothills, but it's only attractive during the rainy season. If you don't water it, well, that's what you get. All right, next plant, Stipa pulchra, the purple needlegrass. This one actually is not that bad looking, but in September it looks dead. This is California state grass, by the way, since 2004, grows all over California except higher elevations, but in Central Valley it's rather uncommon, but it does occur there now and then. It will grow about 2 to 3 feet tall. It's completely drought tolerant, seeds quite prolifically, and this is the progeny of a single plant several years ago. It's probably not good to grow if you have dogs because it has this kind of foxtail type seeds, but it's not as bad for dogs as foxtails. But I would avoid it. I keep our dog away from this location in my backyard. Once it goes dormant, it's best to cut it to the ground once the seeds were eaten by wildlife. And in September, just before cutting it, in my garden, this is what it looked like. The next one is a creeping snowberry. This is a great plant for shade and for dry shade. With partial shade, it does also perfectly fine. This plant gets sun after about 4 p.m. And the next, in September, it still looks quite good. It doesn't really occur naturally in the Central Valley, but it also is one of those that might be worth trying. All right, we are almost getting to the end. The next plant that I wanted to show is grape. And this is the Rogers Red. It's a hybrid of California, Vitis californica, and European wine grape, Vitis vinifera. So it's only 50% native. It grows quick. If you water it, it grows quickly and quite aggressively. But it's much slower growing when you plant it in clay and leave it alone with no water. It will survive the no water regime without any problems. The grapes are very edible. I usually, from this particular plant, I usually get about 10 gallons of grapes, and I make them into grape juice. It has absolutely outstanding fall color. It's bright red, and yeah, that's. Oh, the plant that I was showing here, this is about 15 years old. It's spread, I would say, maybe 20 feet wide, and on the fence that is about 6 feet tall. And this is the end for this time. That's pretty much it for what was missing from the previous presentation. So I guess I could have continued last time. It would end at about 10 p.m.
No, it was good that we were able to get to put in another round, and that was really fun to listen to, and I expected it's going to be another popular video too.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chris. I mean, this now that my garden is getting going, this is just really interesting because I am not doing any irrigation either once they get established.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier.
Okay. Let's see what's in the chat.
Yeah.
Which one is the fastest growing manzanita? Oh, I'd guess probably Vine Hill manzanita. I'm thinking, but all of them are slow. So I really haven't paid much attention to it and haven't done any comparisons. But Howard McMean is reasonably fast growing.
And a real quick reminder of everybody, we are going through the questions now. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat.
Yep.
What wild creatures live and visit your garden? I'm curious because it sounds like a really good habitat garden.
Okay, every year I have a flock of quail that shows up from somewhere and makes nests somewhere in the bushes, and then when I walk in the garden, they panic and run around. So that's one of the species that I notice. Other birds, I see blue jays. I see plenty of birds, but unfortunately, I'm not a very good bird watcher, so I can't really tell what species they are. I see occasionally there are. I see raptors flying around, and occasionally they dive in the garden to pick up something. I think they pick up ground squirrels, which sometimes show up. I have also occasionally wood rats in the backyard, but the neighbors' cats take care, I think, of most of that. I have seen bobcat visiting the backyard, and based on what I sometimes find on the path, there are coyotes now and then. So I'm hoping that they will keep in check the rabbits that showed up in my garden last year, and they have taken the task of pruning the manzanitas. It's really annoying. They basically what they do, they cut through the branch. They don't really eat the leaves very much, but they definitely like pruning them for some reason. You can tell it by the characteristic. The cut is always kind of at 45 degrees, which, according to what I've been researching, this is the symptom of rabbit bite. I've seen various snakes. I've seen king snakes several times, rattlesnake maybe once or twice, plenty of lizards of all kinds, including fairly large alligator lizards that now and then show up, and fence lizards are everywhere. Hummingbirds, butterflies, a lot of native bees of all kinds, bumblebees. What else? What else? I had California gray foxes. What else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Deer don't show up here, although I've seen once a deer walking on the street nearby.
So Cynthia mentioned she loves saltbush and has a big 3-year-old one in her backyard, and I can tell you that she's got a backyard about on the larger side of conventional backyard. So that's one vote for putting in saltbush in your backyard. She also points out that they have them at Dos Rios State Park. Have you been there yet?
No, I haven't been there. The nearest place where I saw salt bushes near here is at Lake Cunningham in San Jose, and they are really big.
We had a webinar a couple of months ago on Dos Rios, and so for the people that are in the audience, if you go to our YouTube channel, you can find that and learn all about Dos Rios State Park and how they were able to basically put in, they did basically farming of native plants. It's really fascinating. Stephanie said.
Let me mention something.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm not sure I would recommend big saltbush because it's big. I was really glad to hear though that you can prune it because I didn't know what I was going to do.
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one that I cut almost to the ground, but just remember that you always need to leave some greenery left over so that you don't count on it's sprouting when you cut cut it so that it's just a wood left. Always leave a couple of branches.
Yeah.
And then they will continue growing from there.
So,
well, I like it being big, except it's so big that it's squeezing out the plants to the side. And just to mention, those of you that live,
just prune it so that it's within the area that you wanted it to be. So, and it will survive it fine.
Stephanie came in late.
I was just going to say, where they just put in a new Costco, and there's a number of big salt bushes over there that, of course, are going to destroy. But they've got that real wild look, and I've heard they're also called quail bush.
Yes, that's right. So Stephanie came in late, and she was looking for low-growing or ground-cover natives. She came in right before you started talking about the bee's bliss, and she said that one was a good fit. But she asked a question. I figure I may as well pose it to you.
Sure. There are a couple of manzanitas that look okay, and those were on my list of potentially good ones. There is manzanita variety called that's a cultivar. It's a hybrid, I think, called Pacific Mist, and for me, this is really the only one that survived completely without water, but I'm growing it in partial shade. It's fairly sparsely growing, so it's not completely ground covering. The one that I have that I'm trying now is something called Winter Glow. That's another cultivar that's, and this one is definitely a ground cover. I grow it in the place where it gets morning sun until about 12 p.m. and so far it's survived perfectly fine, and it's spreading slowly. I think it is worth trying.
When you were talking about your sages, you talked about how they tend to look good for a couple months and then they look kind of bedraggled for a while. And Carrie points out that her Cleveland sage seems to look attractive all year round, but she gives it regular watering every 2 to 3
Oh yeah,
weeks.
yes. When you water them, they will be fine. They will look great. No question about it.
Okay, Molly asked about part one of the presentation. That is on our YouTube channel, and Cynthia can come back on and talk about that in a little bit. Susan asked, voles are devouring her natives, and she was wondering if you have any suggestions.
I had no problems with voles. I'm not sure whether this is because of the clay that makes it difficult for them to dig in, or maybe my neighbor has cats that are outdoor cats, and they visit my garden a lot. Maybe they take care of them. So unfortunately, I don't have any suggestions for this one. I'm not even sure whether damage from voles is mostly to the roots or to the above ground. So I'm sorry, no experience with voles at all.
What do you do with your prunings?
Shred them. I have a shredder, old shredder that I just convert them into mulch. I don't throw anything out.
You probably mentioned this, but how many acres is your property?
1 acre.
1 acre. And I was going to ask about pruning and maintenance also. How long do you spend maintaining every day or every week or every month?
Well, it kind of depends. In the winter, I try to spend maybe 1 day a week doing the maintenance and pruning, but it really wasn't enough, I think. Now that I'm retired, I'm probably going to spending most of my time manicuring the things and getting rid of any dead wood. And if I look at the manzanita, I'm perfectly happy to spend an hour picking up all the dead branches off and listening to music on my headphones. It's a very relaxing task doing either pruning or weeding. By now, I don't really have to do much weeding anymore. In the beginning, since the garden started with a lot of non-native weeds, I used to spend several days every spring trying to get rid of them before they went to seed. And I would guess maybe 2-3 cubic yards of various weeds were taken out, and I didn't recycle them. I gave them to the city for composting. Last year, I think I managed to maybe pick 1 wheelbarrow of stuff from this entire acre.
So you mentioned several times about different plants that don't really have a footprint in the Central Valley, but it might interest you to know that when at the beginning of the talk, Cynthia asked everybody where they were from, and of course there are 3 hosts that are all from the Central Valley, but of the rest of them, only 2 seem to be from the Central Valley. Everybody else is from all over. But there were people from Pasadena. There's people from the Bay Area. A lot of people. So it's I think that definitely you had a lot of really interesting information that I think everybody's.
Okay, I hope somebody will have use for it, and maybe people will watch it on YouTube.
And when I go
like Chris, Mike, let me say something. Yeah, I was telling Chris before we started, his part 1 is the most popular video that we have up, and by far. I did want to mention that Chris's garden is on the Growing Native Garden Tour website. It's the URL is really simple: gngt.org/meadowlands_GNGT. and it has lots of pictures. It also has a plant list. So there's, you know, you can go look at a list of all the plants that he has.
The plant list is from a couple of years ago, so some of the things are gone. Some of the, and there are some things that are not listed. And I don't think that I'll be showing it in 25, maybe in 26, because I'm still trying to. My last 2 years, I was busy with unrelated things, and I really didn't do any maintenance in the garden, very little. And so there is a lot of things that need correction. Also, the extra rain that we had in the last 2 years, this one had a pretty big toll. There were plants that didn't like too much rain.
Wow. And I was going to say that I go up and over Mount Hamilton every year, and there's a lot of beautiful chamise and sagebrush and manzanita plants up there. Right up on San Antonio Valley Road and places like that. So certainly chamise, it's not like they're hundreds of miles away or anything like that. Do you have paths?
Mike, so we have 9 minutes left, and if people want to talk, you can let's unmute people so that they can talk. First, you can keep putting things into the chat. Mike, can you do that, please?
Can I do?
You know, change that.
Well, we don't want to unmute everybody. Everybody knows how to unmute themselves, I would hope.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but we didn't we have them automatic? I mean, I don't know. If you can talk,
I don't think we ought to unmute everyone all at once. If you want to unmute, you kind of go down to the bottom of your screen, and you should see a kind of a microphone looking thing which says audio. You could click on that, and it should be red, and then you click on it, and it goes green if you'd like to talk.
And I wanted to also mention, Chris, I was just stunned. I haven't been to your garden for quite a few years now, and those trees in back, of course, are huge, and they're getting bigger and bigger. I think sure you talked about those in part one.
This was in part one. Those are poplar, Fremont poplars, and they are now. The tall one is probably 70 feet tall. The other one that got its roots to the groundwater a little bit later is probably about 40, I would guess. Mike, you started saying something about 2 minutes ago before Cynthia, and you didn't finish. What was it?
Yeah, I was asking about paths. Do you have paths that go through and kind of a little nature trail that goes through your property?
There is a little bit of nature trail that, unfortunately, I don't have anything on hand, but there is a path that goes in kind of zigzag way down the hill, because most of the property is slope, and it goes 1, 2, 3, kind of four times all the way from one fence to the other. It's fairly for getting down and up with heavy stuff. It's reasonably easy. Plus, there are once you get to the bottom of the hill, there are also paths, and generally the paths evolve with time. Whenever I see that there is a plant that is encroaching over path, I will rather move the path rather than instead of cutting the plant. So I try not to prune too much of anything.
Okay. Gordon, thank you for your presentation. Then he was saying that he'd like to see your yard,
sure.
And it made me think maybe it might be an interesting place to take a field trip. Does that sound like something we could do?
Maybe in the Ceanothus season. Sometime mid-March.
Well, yeah, I mean, whichever, probably the top performing month,
Yeah,
but I just think that would be really cool.
yeah, sure, why not? I'll be happy to host a mini tour.
Um, yeah.
This is just something that, it's hard to plan far in advance because every year there is a couple of weeks of difference in the best blooming time. Um, so it's something that's probably best planned maybe 3 weeks in advance. Or we can just take a chance and do something in mid-March.
Well, I mean,
Early March.
we tend to plan our field trips out a little bit further than that. But Linda was asking, how do you keep weeds off of the paths?
The paths are heavily mulched, so things don't really show up there anymore. And over those many years that I've been playing in my backyard, I have managed to get rid of most of the weeds. And now the only place where I really get weeds are annual grasses that blow over from the neighbors. So I just do 1 or 2 trips along the fence, pull the stuff, and that's it.
And
can I say something, Mike, please?
Of course.
Chris, can you just mention this is in part 1, but the enormous amount of Ceanothuses that you have. And
I used to have many more. And Ceanothuses don't have particularly long lifespan. So after 10, 15 years, it's fairly frequent that they will die. I have just a couple that were really long-lived, but I'm getting Ceanothus seedlings all over the place, which is sometimes the reason for me to move a path, because if I see there is a Ceanothus growing in the path, I'm not going to cut it. Right now, I would say that I have probably 50% of Ceanothuses that I have are hybrids that were created here, from the multitude of species that I used to have. At high points, I had around 60 different varieties. And I'm trying to get back to it now that I have time. So it's going to get back to some of the state that right now is only on the photographs.
Where do you go for your plants?
I went to Las Pilitas. I made a trip to Las Pilitas and brought a truckload from there. Went to Theodore Payne for some of the other South California varieties. So those are my 2 longest trips for plants. Other than this, local nurseries here. There is a nursery it's a commercial wholesale nursery that also caters to public, and you can order pretty much anything from them. So my favorite place here in San Jose is Capitol Wholesale Nursery. Other than this, there is another great nursery in San Jose, is Linda Vista. I got a number of plants from them too.
All right. So anybody want to go ahead and speak up if you have a question?
Okay. Well, listen, this has been great, Chris. Thank you so much. Our time's up, but you can stay on if you want to, and we can chat some more. But I'm going to turn off the video now, and this will be posted within a few days up on our YouTube channel.
Okay, so
NS North San Joaquin Valley NSJV_PNPS.
All right. Hey, Chris, it was great. It was a great talk. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.